This evening, we shall be reading another story by the master of horror and science fiction, Ray Bradbury. This evening's selection is entitled The Wind. John Colt was awake and listening. Moonlight sliced into his room by the huge triple window fronting the upstairs of the house, fell across his sharp, questioning features. The wind moved far away in the night, and Colt's lips worked as he listened to it, moving stealthily and mournfully from the sea, approaching the house as surely as mighty horses' hooves. Colt's body shivered, hair stood erect upon his neck, and goose pimples clustered on his limbs. He knew why he felt this way. After 10 years, he could believe nothing else. He knew the wind was coming towards him, and he slipped from the bed, thrust himself tremblingly into a robe, found carpet slippers, and ventured downstairs to await its arrival. He went to the phone, thinking, "This is what I've waited for." Calmly at first, curious, alert, sure of most factors, but I don't know how much I can stand. I keep losing my grip, gaining it and losing it again. His hand shook as he dialed the call through. "Hello, Herb, this is Colt." "John, how are you?" "Not so good, and like a fool I dismissed my servants today. I'm alone." All the while he talked, Colt listened. The weird music of the wind was muted by distance. It waxed louder. "My writing routine for the last week's been shot to hell, Herb. Been trying to get some rest early tonight, but..." "What was that?" Colt winced. A tiny breeze, preamble to the wind, now on its way, rattled a shutter. Colt thought, did I lock every door, check everything? "Sorry to hear that, John." Herb Thompson was talking. Colt gave ear, then, "Herb, I'd like to have you come over for the night. Can you arrange..." "I'll have to ask the little woman, John. Hold on." A pause. Thompson was conferring with his wife, and far off the wind rose steadily, rapidly. "Sorry, Colt. Alice says we got company coming." "Oh," Colt swallowed. "Look, Herb, it's important. I've got theories about... well..." He stopped, groping for words. "Sounds like a case of nerves," said Thompson. "Why don't you come over here?" "That wouldn't help," Colt shook his head. "I don't know what it would... I'll call back in half an hour." He hung up. What could Herb do? Nothing. It wouldn't be fair to drag an innocent into this setup. And anyway, how to explain to Herb about the wind? Police? Help? They'd send a soft pad squad. Colt deliberately opened the front door. A lopsided frame of moonlight stroked across the gleaming floor, picked out his wine-colored robe and slippers. He stood, shivering, waiting. The great wind could only be a mile away now, soughing through a long, high, dim corridor of swaying elms, plunging down the arboreal path towards Colt's lonely country manor. Colt lit a cigarette, but his dark eyes fastened on the tree lane. Eyes that had seen Rangoon, Stockholm, swept from Nairobi to the Amazon. It was a dark, meaningful wind. Others might have been amused by Colt's wild thoughts. Thompson, for instance, would laugh uproariously. But Colt was not amused. Alone out here, the 9 o'clock countryside, steeped in the vast tide of shadowed, eerie silence, this fortress of a house, his final refuge, the last roll of the dice forced on him. Colt could only wait. The last stand. Decks cleared for action. Colt dragged on his cigarette, flicked it away, thinking, if I scream, no one will hear me. No one. I'm far from Tao. Too damn far. He'd phone Herb in 20 minutes. What to say? Something like this. "Herb, it began 10 years ago when I was investigating phenomena. I've been around, seen hurricanes, typhoons, and whirlwinds. I knew what wind could do. While I was in Tibet, I heard of a mountain called the Mountain of Winds, the space where dark winds from all over the earth congregate at one time or another. It's a vast, evil mountain, gray and jutting, hard, bony rock without a hand or foothold. Blasphemy to touch it. I touched it, Herb. More, I scaled it. Up thousands of sickening, dizzy feet, climbing where only madmen climb to probe into what's better left unselected. Up thousands of sickening, dizzy feet, climbing where only madmen climb to probe into what's better left undissected. I gained its crest raw and wounded. Of all the high, wild places I've seen, this was the most terrifying. On its very peak, cleft a scar of valley through which a tide of wind rushed shrieking. Not one wind, but millions, small and large, light and smoke-hued. Snow, rain, sleet, and hail rang all about on the rocks. The blunt flesh of the mounts sustained it all, and I perceived this from a niche protected. Ah, the clouds shot by there, high up, like creamy shreds torn from some huge, belabored wolfskin. What noise! What a view! What force and violence! How I snailed up or down or escaped, I don't know. Call it luck, fate, will of an intervening god. But I cleaved like a lichen, hung, dropped, picked myself up, dropped again, scrambled and ran, afraid of what I'd seen. I got to Bombay. From time to time after that, there were suggestions of what would follow. Nothing definitely singled me out for action, but general disturbances that occurred with ungodly precision wherever I traveled. But then they ceased. Thought I had it licked. Until this week, 6 nights ago. I lay sleepless and listening. I heard a wind that night, Herb, chuckling and laughing about the house. Just for an hour or so, not very long and not very loud, and then it went away. But I will never forget the sounds it made. The second night, the same thing happened, only this time, Herb, thought Colt. The wind slammed shutters, spilled down my chimney, throwing soot, whisking out the fire in a flood of sparks. The first 2 nights weren't bad. I cocked my head, listened, amused to think I heard faint voices singing in the wind. But the 3rd and 4th nights I changed my mind. It grew worse. The 5th night the wind returned and stayed on, blowing and blowing until dawn. I remember what happened when I dared to open the door a moment. The wind came eagerly in. Colt stanced himself resolutely. He was not old, 30. Moonlight mantling his lean, intent face, his thick black hair, his dark eyes. For the present he did not recognize fear. He rubbed shoulders with curiosity. The tired resignation was his bed companion. Eventually, it would have snared him no matter what he did. He'd had plenty of warning to flee, but he shrugged. Why bother? He'd make his stand here. The wind was almost tangible, rushing from tree to tree, faster and faster, and yet faster, rising, roaring, rising like a great translucent fist, ready to crush down upon the house, ready to sweep it all away. But that was not its purpose. It didn't want the house. It didn't want the house at all. It wanted Colt. The wind went up. It elevated, freeing itself like an invisible prehistoric bird from the elms. Great tidal waves of atmosphere punched trunks and worried branches aside. It screamed earthward, down to the open door, straight for the door, straight for Colt. Instantly Colt's arm flicked up, snatched the door, slammed it. Locks thugged sharp into niches. Bolts rapped home. A second late, the wind fell with a lethal avalanche, titanic and bone-shaking. The house heaved, groaned, as if air flung hard shoulders against it. Colt staggered, the laugh from his lips crippled at birth. "Damn you! Damn you! I fooled you! I fooled you again!" He limped against the door, gasping. His brain was a steaming riot. What would have happened if the locks had failed, if he had not moved with a snap? Eyes distended, he pinned the door unnecessarily with spread-eagled body. Laughter not his own dropping from his mouth. "You thought I'd let you in tonight, didn't you?" he choked. "Thought I was through. But I had everything ready, waiting. You won't get me. By the gods, you can't, you won't." The fury flanked the house with resounding echoes. A great vacuum machine nuzzled at the gables. Shutters leapt open, clattered. Tiny breaking wings clipped off. Trees doubled up as if attacked, struck in the vitals. Colt abandoned the door, hurried to a window. The wind followed. It was all about the house, but his volcanic head looked after Colt, pressed a hard, shifting face against the panes. The window glass whined a crystal song of strain and stress. "You can't break it," jeered Colt. "You can't. It's new, unbreakable. I made sure of that yesterday." The intangible thing outside followed him from window to window and then from room to room, pressing and mourning. Colt stopped, struck by a strange thought. He gave it to the wind. "You're a big hound to run amok," he cried. "You're the damnedest, biggest prehistoric killer that ever hunted prey. A big sniffing hound trying to smell me out, find me. You push your big cold nose up to the house, taking air, and when you find me in the parlor, you drive your pressure there, and when I'm in the kitchen, you fling your power there. A big invisible beast with the muscle of the mad winds. Damn you." In reply, the night shrieked with all the agony of death. The wind seemed to razor the very gown of night, ripping it to shreds, shaking stars, trembling the shaded earth. It tore at the roof with quick, hard fingers, questing under the house to hiss through the floor chinks. A whip of cold flicked Colt's legs. "Get back, curse you!" He blundered away from a side door. He ran from room to room, upstairs and down, switching on lights, and the wind watched him, moving with him. The house flamed with light, brilliantly garish amidst a whirlpooling night. Colt stopped long enough coming down the hall stair to light his pipe. He made a rigid ceremony of it, trying to steady his fingers. The flame fluttered. A cold draft snuffed it out. Colt tried again, succeeding. The pipe glowed. He blew smoke, and a draft whisked it away in a quick billow. The wind smote the house again and again. It fell, it leaned, it thrust, it whined through the screen door. But Colt made no move to satisfy it, so it jerked the screen off in a frenzy of strength, shattered it across the dark lawn. A strong house, thought Colt, and he was glad he had ordered reinforcements for certain portions of it. New wood, new steel, new locks. The harried trees were flung one way and another, riding whips cracked by a Hovian fist. Back in the living room before the warming electric fire log, Colt picked up a book. One of the books he had written on hurricanes, typhoons, and other colossal forces. He thumbed through it, stopping at a dedication. This book is written by one who has seen, but who has always escaped. It is dedicated to those who lost the game of elements. Always escaped. No. No. Not always. Tonight.